She broke his heart. He traded her for a spaceship. 3 years later in prison, she returned Sci-Fi. The station was old, rusty, and often smelled of oil and burnt circuits, but it was his home. Every morning he would wake up in his small cabin, make coffee from powdered mix, and walk down the narrow corridors to the docks. The hum of machinery, the clang of metal doors, and the distant chatter of the few people living there were all he had ever known. For Luke, it was enough, especially because he had Mia Turner. Mia was bright, full of laughter, and the kind of person who could make even the most boring days feel like something special. Luke remembered the first time he met her, 3 years ago, at a shipment unloading bay. She had been arguing with a stubborn alien trader over the price of some metals, waving her hands dramatically while Luke watched from a distance, trying not to stare. There was something about her energy that drew him in. By the end of that week, they were walking through the station's empty corridors together, talking about stars, planets, and dreams of a life beyond the metal walls. For Luke, Mia was the center of everything. He thought he could give her a simple life, and she had promised him the same. They talked about leaving the station someday, maybe finding a quiet planet with forests and rivers and no schedules. But life had a way of twisting dreams into something unrecognizable. One evening, as Luke returned from a long day of unloading cargo, he found Mia in the observation deck. She was looking out at the stars, the pale lights of distant planets reflected in her eyes. He approached her slowly, unsure of what to say. "Hey," he said, his voice soft. She turned, and for a moment he saw something in her face he didn't understand. There was a distance he had never seen before. "Luke, we need to talk," she said. His stomach sank. Something about her tone made his heart tighten. He had learned over the years to read Mia, but tonight her words were sharper, colder. "What is it?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. I can't stay here," she said. "I can't stay with you." Luke froze. He wanted to laugh, thinking she was joking, but the way she looked at him made him realize this was not a joke. "Mia, what are you saying?" She took a deep breath. "I'm leaving. I've found an opportunity planetside. It's better for me, for my future." Luke felt like the floor had dropped beneath him. His chest ached and he struggled to find words. "Better, but we had plans, we had dreams, we were supposed to leave together." "I know," she said, her voice softening, "but some things you can't force. I have to do this, Luke." "I'm sorry." He wanted to shout, to beg her to stay, to make her see that what they had was enough. But she was already turning away, her figure small against the backdrop of the endless stars outside the observation window. And then, just like that, she was gone. For days, Luke wandered through the station in a fog. The corridors felt longer, the hum of machinery louder, the smell of burnt circuits sharper. Every corner reminded him of Mia, her laugh, her hand brushing against his, the way she used to argue with him about the simplest things. He tried to work, tried to focus on unloading cargo and repairing equipment, but nothing could erase the emptiness she left behind. At night, he would sit in his cabin, staring at the small hollow screen he kept for messages. Nothing from her, not a single word. It was as if she had vanished from his world entirely. Luke realized then that he had been clinging to something fragile, something he thought he understood, and now it had been taken away. Anger and sadness mingled together, forming a bitter knot inside him. He had loved her with everything he had, and now she was gone. He knew he couldn't follow her. He didn't have the connections, the resources, or the courage to leave the station. All he had was his grief and a restless mind that refused to stop thinking about what could have been. It was during one of these long nights staring at the hollow screen that he found the message. It was simple, almost impersonal, sent from an unknown address. "Salvage contract. Remote sector. Dangerous. Reward ownership of vessel." Luke stared at the words. The screen flickered, showing a rusted, battered ship floating in the void. It looked barely functional, yet the promise was clear. If he could salvage it, it would be his. A real ship, capable of leaving the station and maybe even leaving the system. At first, he thought it was a joke. Who would send a human to a dangerous sector to recover a derelict vessel? But as he read the details, he felt a spark. The reward was more than enough to start over. The ship was old, yes, but functional, and he could do it. He knew he could. The next morning, Luke packed the essentials into a small bag: tools, rations, his communicator, and a few personal items he couldn't part with. He walked through the station one last time, noticing things he hadn't before. The way the sunlight from the nearby star reflected off the metal walls, the faint smell of oil in the air, the distant chatter of the few people who lived here. Everything felt small now, limited, like the station itself was a cage he had been ready to escape from all along. He approached the docking bay where the small shuttle was waiting. It was nothing like the Wayfarer, the ship from the message, but it would take him to it. Luke checked the systems, made sure the fuel was sufficient, and took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of purpose. The pain of losing Mia was still there, gnawing at his chest, but it was accompanied now by a flicker of determination. As the shuttle lifted off from the station, Luke looked back one last time. The corridors, the hum of machinery, the rusted walls, all of it was behind him. Ahead lay the unknown, a dangerous sector of space filled with wrecks, abandoned stations, and rumors of alien scavengers who did not welcome humans. But Luke didn't care. He had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Days passed as he navigated through the remote sector. The stars were sharper here, the emptiness deeper. He had to avoid rogue satellites, floating debris, and occasional encounters with alien patrols who were suspicious of any human in their territory. Each challenge tested his skills, his patience, and his courage. Luke learned to repair minor damages on the fly, reroute power systems, and negotiate with traders who eyed him with distrust. At night, he would float in the cockpit of the shuttle, staring out at the endless darkness, thinking of Mia. He hated her for leaving, but he also understood that she had her reasons. The anger and sadness were still there, but they were slowly transforming into something else: focus. He would take this chance, salvage the ship, and claim it as his own. He would show himself, and maybe even her someday, that he was capable of more than she had ever imagined. Finally, after nearly a week of tense navigation, Luke spotted the Wayfarer. It was as battered as the hollow message had shown, scarred by asteroid impacts, missing panels, and with a faint glow of residual energy in its engines. But to Luke, it was beautiful. It was not just a ship, it was freedom. He maneuvered the shuttle close, carefully avoiding the jagged edges of the derelict vessel. Every move required precision. One wrong step could crush both him and the ship he had been sent to claim. His hands shook, but his mind was sharp, focused entirely on the task ahead. As he docked the shuttle with the Wayfarer, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. This ship was dangerous, unknown, and possibly haunted by stories of failed recoveries. But it was his now if he could make it work. Luke took a deep breath and entered the airlock, ready to face whatever lay inside. The interior was dark, filled with the smell of burnt circuits and old fuel. Debris floated in zero gravity, and loose panels clattered when he moved. Luke carefully navigated the corridors, checking the systems, repairing what he could, and marking what needed major fixes. It was hard work, and every task reminded him of how far he had come from the small station he once called home. For the first time in months, Luke felt alive. The pain of losing Mia was still with him, a constant whisper in the back of his mind, but it no longer controlled him. He was not just surviving anymore, he was building something, something that was his own. Something that could carry him beyond the stars. As he finished securing the last loose panel in the cockpit, Luke sat in the pilot's seat and ran his hands over the controls. They were unfamiliar, alien in some ways, but the feeling was exhilarating. He had done it. Against the odds, against his own heartbreak, he had claimed the Wayfarer. And in that moment, Luke realized something he hadn't known before. Losing Mia had been devastating, but it had also opened the door to something greater. Pain could destroy a person or it could push them forward. He chose the latter. As the Wayfarer's engines hummed to life, Luke took one last glance at the stars outside the viewport. The station, the life he had known, the heartbreak, all of it was behind him. Ahead lay the vast unknown, and he was ready to meet it head-on. Luke Harris had never been far from human space before. The station he had lived on was small, quiet, and mostly ignored by the bigger powers of the galaxy. But now, sitting in the cockpit of the Wayfarer, he was far from anything familiar. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Strange nebulae glowed faint green and purple in the distance, and small asteroids floated silently, waiting to test a careless pilot. For the first time, Luke felt the full weight of isolation, and it made his heart race. The Wayfarer was not an easy ship to handle. Its systems were old, some patched with human ingenuity, others untouched for decades. Luke had spent days repairing broken panels, rerouting energy circuits, and testing engines that threatened to spark at the slightest touch. But he had done it. Now, as he adjusted the navigation systems and plotted a course to the nearest human trading outpost, he realized how different this journey would be from anything he had imagined. For the first few days, the Wayfarer moved slowly through empty space. Luke monitored the engines, checking fuel levels and life support. He learned quickly that in alien space, the usual rules did not apply. Satellites moved unpredictably, some on government patrol, others abandoned but still dangerous. Small debris clouds could shred the hull in seconds if he wasn't careful. He used every bit of knowledge he had gained working on cargo stations and applying it in ways no human had ever tried before. One afternoon, Luke detected movement on the sensors. At first he thought it was an asteroid, but the readings were too precise. Something was moving toward him fast. He tightened his grip on the controls and watched the screen. A small alien scout ship appeared, sleek, with black armor and strange glowing lines that pulsed with energy. Luke had heard rumors of these scouts, fast, ruthless, and suspicious of any human. The scout did not respond to his hails. Luke realized quickly that it was trying to intimidate him. Most humans would panic or try to flee, but Luke stayed calm. He remembered the advice of an old engineer on the station. Aliens respect confidence, even if you have no idea what you're doing. Luke adjusted the Wayfarer's trajectory, making a slow, deliberate approach toward the scout. He opened the communication panel and sent a simple message. "I mean no harm, just passing through." The scout hesitated. Its sensors scanned him carefully, reading every small signal the Wayfarer emitted. Luke held his breath, watching as the alien ship circled slowly, then finally, after a long pause, moved away. He exhaled, feeling a small thrill. He had survived his first real encounter with alien intelligence. This encounter taught him something important. Humans were underestimated everywhere. The alien species often assumed humans were weak, slow to think, or easily frightened. Luke realized that most humans had never been in this position before, and that gave him an advantage. If he stayed calm, thought quickly, and acted creatively, he could achieve things that other species thought impossible. As days turned into weeks, Luke faced one challenge after another. Asteroid fields forced him to make daring maneuvers. Damaged satellites required him to improvise repairs in zero gravity. Once, a small cargo pod floated into his path, its hull leaking toxic gas. Luke suited up, tethered himself to the Wayfarer, and patched the pod long enough to secure it. The aliens in nearby space had never seen a human handle a problem like that. He began to experiment with ways to use the Wayfarer's old systems in new ways. The engines were slow for short jumps, but by combining them with gravitational slingshots from small moons, he could move faster than some of the scout ships. He rigged makeshift shields from panels found in the cargo holds and even rerouted energy to weapons systems, just in case. The Wayfarer became more than a patched-up ship. It became a symbol of human ingenuity. One day, Luke encountered a trading outpost floating near a small gas giant. The station was run by a mix of aliens, some friendly, some hostile, all wary of a lone human pilot. He docked carefully, checking his approach against sensors to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Inside, the outpost was chaotic. Merchants shouted, cargo crates floated in zero-gravity storage bays, and strange smells of alien foods and oils filled the air. Luke moved cautiously, scanning for traders who might be willing to buy his salvage finds. Most ignored him, assuming he was a low-level human, not worth their time. He approached one trader, a tall creature with 6 eyes and shimmering green skin. Its voice was harsh, words that Luke barely understood, but he had learned enough gestures and tones to communicate. "Salvage, old ship, payment?" the alien asked. "Yes," Luke said simply. "Work completed, ship is functional, payment promised, ownership of vessel." The alien stared at him. It had probably never seen a human negotiate like this before. Most humans would have panicked, made mistakes, or begged. Luke stood tall, confident, and precise. Slowly, the alien nodded. Deals were made, papers signed, and Luke finally had the legal claim to the Wayfarer. As he left the outpost, carrying small crates of supplies and a sense of accomplishment, Luke realized he had begun to change. He was no longer the broken, heartsick man who had been abandoned by Mia. He was becoming someone else, someone resourceful, confident, and clever. The Wayfarer was not just a ship. It was proof that humans could take what seemed impossible and make it work. But the galaxy was not kind to newcomers. Soon, he ran into his first major test. A group of alien scavengers, known for attacking ships carrying valuable salvage, detected the Wayfarer's presence. They were fast, armed with weapons far superior to Luke's patched-up systems. He had seconds to act. The Wayfarer was old, but Luke's mind was faster. He used the asteroid fields as cover, maneuvering in ways the scavengers did not expect. He cut power to some systems, creating a false reading on sensors, making it look like the ship was damaged. The scavengers hesitated, unsure of what they were seeing. Luke then triggered a small flare from the engine exhaust, creating a trail that led them into a cluster of floating debris. One by one, the scavenger ships were damaged as they collided with hidden obstacles. Luke watched from the Wayfarer, heart pounding, hands steady on the controls. When the last ship was disabled, he took a deep breath. He had survived. Not through firepower, not through numbers, but through careful thinking, quick decisions, and human adaptability. That night, floating in the Wayfarer's cockpit, Luke allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in years, he felt powerful, not because of weapons or money, but because of his mind. Humans could do things aliens did not expect. They could adapt, survive, and even thrive in impossible situations. The days continued, each one teaching him more. He repaired old systems, created new tools from spare parts, and learned to understand alien signals, even if he could not speak the language perfectly. He discovered small outposts, isolated ships in need of repair, and trading stations where he could earn credits by helping others. Each success reinforced what he was learning. Humans were underestimated, but they were clever, resilient, and unyielding. Luke began to feel a strange pride. He remembered Mia, the person who had left him. At first, he had been angry, hurt, and full of doubt. But now, with every successful maneuver, every repair, every clever trick that saved him from danger, he realized that Heartbreak had pushed him to this. Losing her had forced him to act, to take risks, and to trust his own abilities. He could not bring himself to hate her completely. She had, unknowingly, helped him become the person he was now. One day, he approached a small asteroid field rumored to hide abandoned alien ships. They were relics, dangerous, and potentially valuable. Luke carefully navigated through the tight passages, scanning for energy signatures. He spotted a small cruiser, damaged but salvageable. Most humans would have avoided it. Most aliens would have ignored it, but Luke saw an opportunity. He boarded the ship carefully, noting weak points, damaged systems, and floating debris. Hours passed as he patched leaks, rerouted power, and brought the ship's engines to life. By the end of the day, the cruiser was operational. Luke had proven once again that humans could take broken things and make them work. Word began to spread across the sector. Aliens whispered about the human pilot who moved where others feared, who repaired what others abandoned, and who survived attacks that would have destroyed others. Luke did not seek fame, but he could not help feeling a small thrill each time he encountered astonished faces. By now, he was no longer the man who had been left behind. He was a human who had faced isolation, danger, and alien suspicion, and had come out stronger. The Wayfarer, once a battered relic, was now a ship of capability, reflecting its pilot's cleverness and persistence. Luke looked out at the stars from the cockpit one quiet evening. He thought about the long journey ahead, the challenges he had faced, and the ones he had yet to meet. He remembered Mia, not with sadness but with a small, quiet gratitude. Losing her had hurt him deeply, but it had also set him on a path that no other experience could have given. He smiled to himself. Humans were underestimated, and that was exactly what made them dangerous. He would continue, one calculated risk at a time, proving that ingenuity, courage, and persistence could overcome even the most powerful alien obstacles. And somewhere in the galaxy, Luke knew, other humans would be watching, ready to do the same. The Wayfarer hummed quietly as it moved through space. Luke adjusted the course, aware of dangers ahead but ready to meet them. He had survived alien scouts, navigated deadly debris fields, and salvaged ships thought lost. He was learning, growing, and becoming something more than he had ever imagined. Luke Harris, the human who had once been heartbroken and alone, was now a force to be reckoned with. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. Luke Harris had settled into a rhythm in space. The Wayfarer was no longer just a ship. It had become an extension of himself. He knew its systems, its quirks, every loose panel and every weak connection. Every successful mission, every clever repair made him more confident, more skilled. He no longer worried about surviving. He was beginning to thrive. But as he moved through the sectors beyond human space, he realized that success also brought attention. Aliens were talking about the human who could survive where others failed. Some admired him. Others wanted to test him. It started with small encounters. Traders who had ignored humans now studied him with curiosity. Patrol ships that once bypassed cargo haulers now slowed down to scan the Wayfarer, checking his cargo, sensors, and movement patterns. Luke noticed the stares, the whispers, the cautious greetings. He smiled quietly to himself. Humans were underestimated. That gave him an advantage. One day, while docking at a minor trading station near a gas giant, Luke noticed a commotion. A group of human pilots had been captured by local authorities. They were accused of smuggling alien technology illegally. The captives looked frightened, helpless, and hopeless. Luke felt a familiar knot in his chest. He could have ignored it. After all, he had his ship, his missions, and no reason to risk himself. But something stirred inside him, the same persistence, the same courage that had kept him alive through the asteroid fields and alien scouts. He approached the authorities. They were a mix of alien species, some tall and strong, others thin and fast. None of them expected a single human to negotiate. Luke used calm words, simple logic, and precise gestures to explain the situation. He pointed out that the captives were following proper trade procedures and that mistakes had been made. The aliens hesitated. They were not used to humans challenging them without fear. After tense hours of discussion, Luke succeeded. The captives were released. The authorities grumbled, some muttered threats, but they had no choice. Luke had used nothing but his mind, his knowledge of procedures and human determination. The other pilots looked at him with awe. Some whispered among themselves, calling him reckless, clever, and impossible to predict. This was when Luke realized the truth about humans. They did not need superior weapons or alien technology to survive. They had persistence, quick thinking, and adaptability. With these traits, even one human could change outcomes that other species thought impossible. But Luke's life was not just about missions and survival. News from human space was sparse, but when it came, it carried weight. One day, while scanning transmissions from a distant outpost, he heard something that made his stomach twist. Mia Turner had been arrested. She had been involved in exposing corruption in a planetary transport authority. Officials accused her of falsifying records and interfering with alien trade agreements. The accusations were false, but the systems in place were stacked against humans. She had fought, but she had lost. And now she was in an off-world prison, far from anyone who could help. Luke felt a strange mix of anger, regret, and worry. He remembered the night she left him, the distance in her eyes, and the loneliness he had felt after her departure. But now the situation had reversed. She was alone, trapped, and vulnerable. Luke had the power to help her, and the thought stirred a new determination inside him. He would not leave her to face this alone. He began planning. The prison was heavily guarded, surrounded by alien patrols and advanced security systems. Most humans would never attempt to approach it, but Luke had faced impossible odds before. He studied maps, transmission logs, and ship movements. He ran simulations in his mind. The Wayfarer could not match the prison's defenses head-on, but with clever maneuvers, improvisation, and timing, it might just work. Days passed as he prepared. He modified the Wayfarer, installing temporary shields, rerouting energy to propulsion systems, and creating small distractions that could confuse alien sensors. He calculated the patrol patterns, the timing of energy pulses, and the best approach for communication. Every step required careful thought, precision, and creativity. Finally, the moment came. Luke approached the prison from an unusual angle, using a combination of asteroid cover and energy pulses to mask the Wayfarer's presence. Alien patrols scanned the area, but they could not detect him. The ship moved like a shadow, unseen and unpredictable. Inside the prison, Mia was waiting for her daily inspection. She had been strong, determined, and careful, but months of confinement had worn her down. She had no way of knowing help was coming. Then a small signal flashed on her comm panel, an encrypted message she barely recognized. "Trust the human," it read. Her heart raced. She had no choice but to follow the instructions, carefully moving through the corridors, avoiding guards, and preparing for what she could only hope was a rescue. Outside, Luke guided the Wayfarer with precision. He used the ship's thrusters to create false readings, small flares to distract sensors, and carefully timed movements to avoid detection. Hours passed as he maneuvered closer, every second a test of patience and skill. He was calm, focused, and fully aware of the stakes. Humans were underestimated, and he intended to use that advantage fully. Finally, he docked with a maintenance bay on the outer edge of the prison. The bay was old and rarely used, making it the perfect entry point. Luke suited up, checked his tools, and moved with careful stealth. The corridors inside were quiet, alien guards distracted by routine checks. Every step brought him closer to Mia. When he reached her cell, she was startled but quickly recognized him. Luke handed her a small device to unlock the door. "Follow me," he whispered. "We don't have much time." Mia moved carefully, keeping low and silent. Luke led her through service corridors, using knowledge of patrol patterns and hidden pathways. They encountered a few guards, but Luke's quick thinking allowed them to avoid confrontation. At one point, He used a small panel to create a temporary blind spot in security cameras, a trick he had learned during previous missions. Hours later, they reached the outer bay. The Wayfarer waited, engines humming softly, shields engaged, ready for escape. Mia climbed aboard, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Luke, how did you?" "Humans find ways," he said with a small smile. "We're clever, persistent, and unpredictable." The engines roared as the Wayfarer lifted off. Alien patrols detected the movement immediately, but Luke was already in motion. He used gravitational slingshots from nearby moons, asteroid cover, and sudden directional changes to evade pursuit. The aliens tried to follow, but they underestimated the ingenuity and persistence of a human pilot. As they cleared the prison sector, Mia finally allowed herself to breathe. She looked at Luke, a mix of gratitude and astonishment on her face. "I don't know how you did this," she said softly. Luke shrugged, trying to appear casual. "It wasn't easy, but humans, we find ways, we don't give up, we improvise." For the first time in years, Mia felt safe. She realized that the human who had once been heartbroken, lost, and alone was now someone she could rely on. Luke had changed. He was no longer the man she had left behind. He was stronger, smarter, and more capable than anyone had expected. In the following days, as they traveled together aboard the Wayfarer, Luke continued to teach Mia how to handle the ship, repair systems, and navigate through dangerous sectors. She learned quickly, impressed by how much he had accomplished. Together, they became a team, blending human ingenuity with determination, surviving and thriving where others would have failed. Luke also realized something deeper. Rescuing Mia was not just about helping her, it was about proving something to himself. He had turned heartbreak into strength, isolation into opportunity, and danger into a test of skill. The galaxy underestimated humans, and that was exactly what made them powerful. As they moved further into uncharted sectors, rumors of the human pilot who rescued prisoners spread. Alien traders whispered about the bold human who could navigate impossible situations, fix broken ships, and evade detection with ease. Luke did not seek fame, but he knew that every success, every clever maneuver was proof of humanity's quiet strength. At night, in the quiet of the Wayfarer, Luke looked out at the stars. He thought about Mia, the challenges they had faced, and the long journey ahead. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but he no longer feared it. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that was a gift. They could adapt, survive, and even thrive in situations that others thought impossible. Mia sat beside him, watching the stars, and for the first time she felt a sense of hope. The man who had once been heartbroken was now her partner in survival. Together, they could face whatever the galaxy had to offer. Luke smiled quietly to himself. The Wayfarer hummed beneath them, a symbol of human ingenuity, persistence, and resilience. And somewhere in the galaxy, alien powers would begin to understand that humans were not to be underestimated. Luke had turned heartbreak into strength, betrayal into determination, and danger into opportunity. He had rescued Mia, proved himself, and learned that humans had a quiet power that no alien technology or force could fully measure. The journey ahead was long, full of unknowns, but Luke Harris was ready. Humans were underestimated, and that was exactly what made them unstoppable. Luke Harris had never felt more alive. The Wayfarer moved smoothly through the endless dark of space, carrying both him and Mia Turner. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and beautiful, and for the first time in years, Luke felt a sense of purpose beyond survival. He had saved Mia, but he also realized that the galaxy had no idea what humans were capable of. That thought filled him with a quiet confidence. Mia sat beside him in the cockpit, still processing the events of the last few days. She had been imprisoned, abandoned by allies, and betrayed by those who should have protected her. And yet, here she was, flying through space on a battered human ship, rescued by the same man she had left behind. Her eyes were bright, but there was a fire in them now, a determination that matched Luke's own. "We can't stay hidden forever," Mia said quietly, watching the stars streak past the viewport. "They'll be looking for us. That prison, the authorities, they'll know I'm gone." Luke nodded, his hands steady on the controls. "I know, but hiding isn't our style. Humans adapt, we improvise, we survive where others fail. That's what I've learned out here." Mia looked at him and smiled faintly. "You've changed, Luke. You're not the same person I left behind." "You've grown," he shrugged. "Pain has a way of doing that. Losing you hurt more than I can say, but it forced me to act, to think, to survive. And now I can do more than just survive. I can thrive." Their first real test came sooner than expected. A transmission flashed across the Wayfarer's comm panel. Intercepted, scrambled, but unmistakably urgent. Alien pirates, a notorious group known for attacking human and alien ships alike, were on a course directly through the sector Luke had planned to navigate. They were fast, well-armed, and ruthless. Most humans would have fled immediately. Luke did not. "We can't outrun them for long," he said, scanning the incoming data. "But we can be smarter. We can use what they don't expect." Mia leaned over his shoulder, eyes sharp. "Like what?" Luke pointed at the small moons and asteroid clusters ahead. "These fields are too tight for their ships. They'll slow down, try to navigate carefully. We'll take risks they won't. We'll use the Wayfarer's size and flexibility to our advantage. We'll make them underestimate us." Mia nodded. She trusted him completely now, not because of love or loyalty alone, but because she had seen what he could do. He had survived impossible encounters, repaired broken ships, and navigated alien territory without error. This human, she realized, was unpredictable, and that unpredictability was powerful. As they entered the asteroid field, Luke guided the Wayfarer with precise movements. The ship weaved through tight spaces, engines thrumming, shields holding against small impacts. Behind them, the pirate ships tried to follow, but their larger size made them clumsy. They collided with small asteroids, their hulls sparking, their formations breaking apart. Luke used every trick he had learned. He cut power to certain systems to create false readings on sensors, then reactivated them to appear in unexpected positions. He created small energy pulses from the engines to mimic ghost signals, confusing the pursuers. Mia handled communications, sending out scrambled signals to further mislead the pirates. Together, they were a team, a human duo combining cunning and courage. Hours passed as they navigated the field, dodging, weaving, and outsmarting the enemy. By the time the pirates gave up and turned back, the Wayfarer had emerged unscathed, floating free in open space. Luke exhaled slowly, a small grin on his face. "Humans," he said simply. "We do what we have to." Mia laughed softly, relief washing over her. "You're incredible, Luke. I never imagined humans could do this." Luke shook his head. "You underestimate us too often. Most aliens think humans are weak, slow, or careless. That's why we survive. That's why we win." But their journey was not only about survival. As they traveled farther into alien space, Luke realized the Wayfarer had another purpose. He began seeking out abandoned ships, lost cargo, and isolated stations. Each discovery was a test, a chance to prove that humans could solve problems where others had failed. On one remote planet, he found a small research station, long abandoned after a minor accident. The station's systems were failing, and alien traders had declared it worthless. Luke saw opportunity. He docked the Wayfarer, repaired life support, and brought the station's systems back online. Mia watched in awe as he navigated alien controls, rewired broken circuits, and used makeshift tools to restore functionality. By the time they left the planet, they had salvaged valuable research data, repaired technology that others had given up on, and earned credits that would allow them to continue their journey. Aliens who saw the human pilot in action whispered among themselves. They had underestimated Luke once, and they would not make that mistake again. Weeks passed, each day bringing new challenges and new lessons. Luke and Mia learned to trust each other completely. They anticipated each other's moves, covered each other's mistakes, and worked together to navigate dangerous territories. The Wayfarer became faster, stronger, more reliable with each repair, each modification, and each mission completed. One evening, as they floated near a quiet nebula, Mia spoke quietly. "Do you ever think about going back to human space, to Earth or one of the colonies?" Luke shook his head, watching the colorful gases swirl outside the viewport. "Not yet. We're just getting started. Humans are underestimated out here. We can do things they don't think possible. If we stay hidden in human space, we'll never see what we're capable of." Mia nodded. She understood. Humans were small, fragile, and overlooked. But their greatest strength was in their mind, their determination, and their unpredictability. Luke had proven it time and again. Together, they were becoming legends in a sector that had never seen human ingenuity at work. Their next encounter tested them even further. A heavily armed alien convoy appeared on sensors, blocking the Wayfarer's path. They were too many, too fast, and too well-armed to engage directly. Most would have fled. Luke did something different. He studied the convoy, noting gaps in formation, sensor blind spots, and timing patterns. Then he devised a plan. Using a combination of false signals, rapid maneuvers, and the Wayfarer's unique design, he created the illusion of multiple ships appearing in different locations. The aliens fired at shadows, energy wasted on empty space, while Luke guided the Wayfarer through the gaps. Mia assisted, recalibrating shields, monitoring energy flow, and keeping communication channels active. The convoy became frustrated, unable to predict the humans' moves. By the time the last ship realized the ruse, the Wayfarer was already out of range, engines humming softly as they drifted into the safety of uncharted space. "That was incredible," Mia whispered, still catching her breath. "You outsmarted them all." Luke smiled. "Humans do what we have to do. We're clever, adaptable, and stubborn. That's how we survive." The months continued with similar trials. They repaired ships no one else could, salvaged technology thought lost, and navigated territories where even seasoned alien pilots feared to go. Each mission strengthened their reputation, but it also drew attention. Stories of the human pilot and his companion began to circulate. Aliens in nearby sectors spoke of their daring, clever maneuvers, and impossible escapes. Luke began to understand the power of reputation. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their cunning, persistence, and ability to adapt made them unpredictable. Every encounter reinforced this truth. Aliens began to approach cautiously, trading carefully, and sometimes even seeking Luke's help. The man who had once been heartbroken and left behind was now a figure of respect and cautious fear. One quiet evening, as they floated near a small moon, Mia looked at Luke. "Do you think we can ever go home?" Luke shook his head, but not in disappointment. "Home is different now. The galaxy is bigger than anything we imagined. Humans are underestimated out here, and we have to keep proving it. We've survived impossible odds. We've rescued prisoners, outsmarted convoys, and repaired ships that should have been junk. We can't stop now." Mia nodded. She understood. Humans were small, but they were clever. They were adaptable. And with Luke, she had seen firsthand that a single human could accomplish what entire alien fleets had failed to do. The Wayfarer hummed beneath them, a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. Luke and Mia had become more than survivors. They were pioneers, explorers, and a quiet warning to the galaxy. Underestimate humans at your own risk. As they drifted through the stars, Luke looked at Mia and smiled. "We're just getting started. Humans can do more than they know, and we'll keep proving it one mission at a time." Mia returned the smile, hope, and admiration in her eyes. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy had in store. And wherever they went, one truth remained clear. Humans were underestimated, and that made them unstoppable. The Wayfarer moved forward, engines steady, systems humming, and its crew ready for anything. Luke Harris had taken Heartbreak and turned it into strength. Mia Turner had survived imprisonment and found a partner she could trust. Together, in the vast, dangerous, and uncharted space, they were unstoppable, not because of weapons or technology, but because of the quiet, relentless power of humanity. Luke Harris had never imagined the galaxy would notice him like this. Stories of his daring missions, clever improvisation, and impossible escapes had spread like wildfire across the sectors. Traders whispered about the human who could repair broken ships in minutes, survive ambushes, and outthink alien convoys. Scouts reported encounters with a lone ship that vanished into asteroid fields, only to reappear where no one expected. And yet, Luke and Mia were just getting started. The Wayfarer had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience, a vessel capable of surviving dangers no alien pilot would dare face. Its patched hull, improvised shields, and makeshift systems were a testament to Luke's determination. And now, with Mia at his side, the ship had a second mind, a partner in decision-making, in strategy, and in survival. Their next challenge arrived in the form of a coalition fleet. Several alien empires, hearing rumors of the human pilot, decided to confront him directly. Hundreds of ships, sleek, well-armed, and coordinated, converged on the sector Luke had mapped for a salvage mission. Most humans would have panicked at the scale of the threat. Luke did not. He studied the fleet's formation carefully, noting the weak points in their lines and gaps in communication. "Mia," he said calmly, "they think they can corner us. They don't know humans improvise. We can survive this, but we have to use our brains." Mia nodded, her fingers flying over the Wayfarer's controls. "Let's show them what humans can do." The battle began quietly. Luke used small asteroids and gravitational anomalies to mask the Wayfarer's movements. Alien sensors were confused by the sudden shifts in trajectory, the unexpected maneuvers, and the false energy readings he projected. He created phantom signals, making it appear that the Wayfarer was in multiple places at once. The aliens fired on shadows, wasted energy, and became increasingly disoriented. Mia coordinated the shields and systems, rerouting power precisely where Luke needed it most. When a scout ship tried to flank them, Luke used the Wayfarer's size and agility to strike first, disabling its engines with a carefully aimed energy pulse. The alien fleet had not anticipated human unpredictability. Hours passed in tense, precise maneuvers. Every decision required split-second timing, quick thinking, and absolute trust. Luke and Mia worked in perfect synchronization, reading each other's movements and anticipating enemy reactions. The fleet, despite its size and firepower, could not predict their actions. Humans were clever, adaptable, and relentless. Finally, the largest ships of the coalition attempted a direct attack. They unleashed volleys of energy beams and missiles, assuming the Wayfarer would falter. Luke calculated the timing perfectly, using a cluster of asteroids as a shield, then redirected the weapon's own energy pulses to create small chain reactions that disabled two of the largest ships. Mia adjusted the shields and engines simultaneously, keeping the Wayfarer safe. The fleet retreated, astonished and defeated not by brute force but by human ingenuity. Luke and Mia floated among the stars, engines humming softly, adrenaline slowly fading. They had survived what no one thought possible. Mia looked at Luke, awe in her eyes. We humans, I never realized," Luke smiled quietly. "We adapt, we survive, and we don't give up. That's why they can't beat us, not with numbers, not with weapons, not with technology. We're underestimated, and that's our advantage." News of the encounter spread across the galaxy. Humans, once seen as small, weak, and inconsequential, began to earn a reputation for unpredictability and cleverness. Stories of the human pilot who had outmaneuvered fleets and rescued prisoners became legendary. Aliens whispered the name Luke Harris with caution and respect. Some tried to negotiate with him, others observed him from a distance, and a few, though small in number, even sought to study humans more carefully. For Luke and Mia, the victory was more than a battle. It was a statement. Humans had arrived. They did not need the largest ships, the most advanced weapons, or massive fleets. All they needed was ingenuity, persistence, and courage. But Luke knew their journey was not over. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, and still filled with those who underestimated humanity. He charted new courses, seeking abandoned stations, isolated ships, and lost technology. Each mission was another chance to demonstrate human capability. Mia had grown into a skilled pilot and strategist. She handled systems, communications, and repairs with precision, complementing Luke's daring and quick thinking. Together they were unstoppable, not because of size or firepower, but because of brains, adaptability, and determination. One day, while approaching a derelict alien colony ship, they encountered signs of life. Small signals indicated that the ship's crew had survived, but were trapped in a failing habitat. Luke and Mia worked together to assess the damage, reroute life support, and guide the survivors to safety. The aliens were astonished by how efficiently the humans operated. They did not fire, they did not argue, they solved problems, repaired systems, and saved lives. Luke realized then that humanity's strength was not only in survival, but in helping others. Their cleverness and adaptability could change not just their own fate, but the fate of entire crews, stations, and settlements. And wherever they went, humans left a mark. As they traveled farther from known space, Luke and Mia reflected on their journey. They had left the small cargo station, faced heartbreak, survived imprisonment, outsmarted convoys, and challenged fleets. They had become a living testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Mia looked at Luke, her eyes filled with respect and admiration. "We've done more than I imagined. You've changed everything, Luke," he shrugged modestly. "I didn't do it alone. Humans work best together. We survive, we adapt, and we keep moving forward. That's what makes us powerful." The Wayfarer hummed beneath them, carrying two humans across the galaxy. Its patched hull and improvised systems were a testament to what humans could achieve when pushed to their limits. Every repair, every clever maneuver, and every mission completed reinforced a truth the galaxy had long ignored. Humans were not weak, and they were far from predictable. Luke plotted their next course, toward sectors full of derelict ships and uncharted systems. Each jump into the unknown was an opportunity, a chance to continue proving humanity's worth. He knew challenges awaited, some more dangerous than anything they had faced, but Luke and Mia were ready. Humans thrived on challenges. They adapted. They improvised. And they never gave up. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Luke and Mia shared a quiet moment. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, filled with danger, mystery, and opportunity. And somewhere in that vast expanse, the story of two humans, a battered ship, and unstoppable determination was spreading. Luke Harris had taken heartbreak, betrayal, and isolation, and turned it into strength, skill, and courage. Mia Turner had survived imprisonment and found trust and partnership in the man she had once left behind. Together, they proved that humans, underestimated and overlooked, could achieve what no one else thought possible. And as they moved forward, the galaxy began to understand one simple truth. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and unstoppable. The Wayfarer carried them into the unknown, engines humming, shields glowing, systems humming in quiet harmony. Luke and Mia were ready for anything. Humans had arrived, and no fleet, no alien empire, and no obstacle could stop them. Not because of numbers or weapons, but because humans could think, adapt, and endure. That was their true power, and the galaxy would never forget it.